Hey guys, welcome to this week's episode. This week, I'm going to be talking about the 5 things I wish I would have known before I started to pursue my passion. And I'm going to be going through a couple of them, well, 5 of them to be exact, as I said. And then a couple of them that are really, really dear to my heart. And hopefully this is going to be able to help you guys go through and follow your passions. If you guys haven't gotten a chance yet, I'm also starting another project with some friends called A Creative's Almanac. And we just released our first podcast. So be sure to check that out. But without further ado, guys, let's get into the video. Alrighty, guys, so just to give a little preface to what the video is going to be about, I know I said a little bit in the beginning, but I just want to elaborate a little bit more before we actually get into the meat and potatoes of this video, and that is, some of these things I struggled with for a really long time, and only now am I finally getting over it after a couple years of actually pursuing my passion semi-passively, but now I'm trying to get a little bit more active about it. And so each 5 of these are things that are really, really dear to me. And they've really, once I've been able to get through them and get past them, they've really, really changed my outlook on following passions and helping other people follow their passions, which essentially what is one of my biggest goals. That's why I started A Creative's Almanac, and then other passions that I want to do, my musicianship and DJing and performing and stuff like that, is I want to encourage other people who have a desire or who are even just thinking about following their passions to get into some of the reasons why I think you guys should. But let's get into number 1. Alrighty, guys, so number 1 is how many hats you have to wear. And I'm not talking about your actual hats. It might be cheesy. But I'm talking about, so in my case, I'm a musician and a producer and a DJ. But not only that, I also have to be my own social media manager, a photographer, videographer, a video editor, public relations, HR. Like, I'm a whole company in one. That's something I kind of knew when I just started. But it didn't really become something I really internalized until I started talking to other people who are like, you know what, as this, you don't only have to just be good at music, because probably out there's some guy making the best music in the world, but he doesn't have any social media, or he doesn't know how to brand himself, so no one will ever hear his music. And that's kind of sad, but it's the truth of how our society works nowadays. So as a creative, wherever your field is, you have to wear multiple hats. You can't just be your thing, which is still very important. You still have to focus on what your passion is and what your passion is, I guess. But you also have to be spread out, and you have to be dynamic, and you have to try to learn as many things as possible. As a good friend said, Hayden Gullings, he said that he personally loves to spread out as much as possible and learn like every single thing, so he just knows how to do everything, right? It makes sense. That totally makes sense, right? Because, I mean, as a musician, as a creative, you have to be able to evolve to different scenarios and really understand that, yeah, I'm just repeating myself over and over. Number 1 is having to wear multiple hats and be dynamic. Boom! And number 2, guys, number 2 is how lonely it can actually be. And maybe it's just different for me than everyone else, but from my experience, following your passion can be a really, really lonely process, especially if you don't have people who support you. Even when I was in a relationship with another person, I still felt really alone, because it was really hard to describe to another person why I was following my passion and why I didn't want to, like, they would invite me out to go to a party or to do this, to do that, but I wanted to stay home and I wanted to work on my craft and kind of hone it in. But that still kind of like dragged on me, and eventually once all of that ended and I was kind of just left to my own devices, and during this pandemic and during the quarantine, I've realized more than ever before that I am pretty alone, but I've kind of grown to capture it, you know what I mean? And like realize that being alone isn't bad, and it's actually it's a really nice opportunity to actually get to know yourself, right? And that kind of ties into a whole bunch of other things with the psychology of being a creative, which sometimes can be really taxing on your mind, and your mind can play tricks on you, right? So during this time, I've really learned how to love myself and how to be okay with being alone and following what I want to do and pursuing my passion, right? So guys, that was number 2, and number 2 was how lonely it can be. And number 3, guys, is how expensive it can be. As a musician, you can, or let's just say as a producer, because I think that'll just be easier. So as a producer, essentially all you need is a laptop. Actually, you probably just need a laptop or a desktop or something that you can put a DAW on, and DAW is a digital something workstation. Yeah. So Ableton, FL, Pro Tools. I'm missing one. Logic 2. And there's a bunch. Studio One. Blah 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 blah. So in reality, that's probably all you need, right? Personally, I would probably suggest headphones because it's a little bit easier to mix on on headphones, or at least to get feedback for it. And you could probably use it in a variety of different places, but it can be pretty expensive if you want to kind of branch out and get some more stuff done. I don't know if you guys can see from that angle or not, but I got acoustic paneling in my room that I built myself because I couldn't afford actual acoustic paneling, because every musician probably knows it's really expensive. And then I got myself two Presonus Eris E55s, the dual one. Those are pretty expensive. MIDI keyboards are conventionally expensive. My interface, a microphone, amp, the laptop, the headphones, both IEMs, and then over-ear headphones for in-studio use. So it can get really expensive if you don't learn how to prioritize what's important to you, right? Because, I mean, in this, I think in any creative discipline, you can spend a lot of money, but that's not going to necessarily transfer over to really good quality music. So it can be really expensive, but as you go through it, you'll learn how to allocate your money more appropriately. So number 3 is how expensive it can be. Number 4, and this is something that I think I continuously struggle with, is how to get good advice, or how hard it can be to get good advice. Because, I mean, in this sphere, everyone has a opinion about something, right? And it gets really difficult to be able to distinguish what's good advice and what's bad advice, because everyone's so different, right? Everyone is on a different path, especially with this, right? Some people start music and then a month later they're Martin Garrix, right? Where he bursted onto the scenes after just being in music for not too long and studying. I might be getting this completely wrong, but relatively speaking, he burst onto the scene pretty quickly, right? And he became a huge internationally well-known DJ. Yeah, everyone has their opinion on different things, so it's really hard to get really good quality opinions on stuff, whether that's feedback on music, whether that's feedback on your career, how to pursue something, how to handle your social media. There's so many different hats to wear, so as time goes on, you'll learn to pick up good and bad advice and learn from both. But I still think that's a challenge that every creative faces. So that was number 4. And the very last one, guys, number 5, is the amount of judgment you're going to endure from the people that you know. And for me, this one was really true, and this one really hits home, because for a while after I initially decided, because at very first, once I graduated, I wanted to be in politics. So I wanted to be a politician, and that's the way I thought I was going to be able to make the biggest amount of change, was through politics, which arguably, looking back on... Never mind. I endured a lot of judgment from my mom at the beginning, and looking back on it, it was only out of a place of caring for me. She wanted me to do a conventional job so that I would have some security. And then eventually, it took a while, and it took a lot of me not talking to her for a long time. About 4 years of not speaking to my mom. And again, I received judgment from outside, but that honestly didn't really matter to me. Again, I'm not gonna be able to explain what I see to everyone else, but I mean, for me, I feel like your family should be the ones who support you the most. But as Gary Vee said, sometimes you just gotta say your parents. And so that's what I did for 4 years. And then after that, once I actually started talking to my mom again, it seemed like she maybe didn't agree with what I was saying, but she understands that this is something that I'm not just doing for dumb reasons. This is something I'm really, really passionate about, and this is something I really want to inspire change with, right? And this is something that I think a lot of people can gain value from, especially you. Seeing through these videos, maybe I'm gonna be able to help somebody who was in my position a few years ago that's struggling, maybe that doesn't have parents that support them, realize their dream and realize that, you know, sometimes your parents don't see the way you see, and it only just takes time for them to understand what you're going through, right? I want to be there to support you, maybe help the next generation of musicians and creatives come out of there. So again, guys, thank you for sitting through this. If you guys haven't gotten a chance to check out the podcast, it's A Creative's Almanac on Spotify, Apple Music. The YouTube video of the actual whole podcast where I sit down with Jack Wild is going to be coming up really soon as well. Thank you again, guys, so much for watching. I really, really appreciate it. If you guys think I deserve it, click the subscribe button so you can stay updated to all my videos that I'm making. I make 2 times a week, Mondays and Fridays. Again, big love for me, guys. Take care, and I'll see you guys on Monday with a new video.
Against political correctness. But let's make sure we're all...
Hey there, guys. Welcome to this week's video.